Admiral Jack Harlow stood at the window of the Earth space station. His eyes were fixed on the hologram showing the Galactic Council meeting. The alien leaders were angry. Their voices were loud, and many waved their arms, tentacles, or other limbs in the air. "Humans are dangerous," shouted Zexthol, the blue-skinned leader from Arcturus. "The attack on Proxima Station shows their true nature. They destroy what they cannot control." Jack's hands tightened into fists. For 20 years, humans had worked to be good neighbors in the galaxy. They shared medicine, helped during disasters, and followed all the rules. Yet every time something bad happened, aliens blamed Earth. Earth had no ships near Proxima when it was attacked, Jack said calmly. "We ask for a fair investigation before you make any decisions." The room filled with angry noises. The tall, crystal-like leader from Rigel stood up. His body sparkled in the light as he spoke. "We have seen this pattern before. Humans move into new areas, and problems follow. We must stop them now before more damage is done." Jack watched in shock as the council began to vote. The numbers on his screen showed the result clearly. The aliens had already decided humans were guilty. 3 hours later, Jack was back on Earth. He sat at a large round table with Earth's leaders. General Olivia Martinez spoke first. "The Council has blocked all our ships. Our colonies can only get basic supplies. They say we can appeal, but it won't matter." President William Boyd finished her sentence. "This is the 7th time they blamed us for something we didn't do. We showed them proof. We let them inspect our bases. Nothing is ever enough." The room was quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. Humans had tried for years to be accepted, but the other species of the galaxy would never trust them. Dr. Alan Nguyen cleared his throat. "Maybe it's time to consider the Exodus Plan." The Exodus Plan was never meant to be used. It was created as a last option if living among aliens became impossible. The idea was simple but extreme. Humans would leave known space completely. President Boyd looked slowly around the table. He saw the tired faces of Earth's leaders. They had all worked for peace. They had all failed. "We've tried everything else," he said softly. "We've bent over backward to please the Council. We've given up rights, territory, and freedom. And still, they treat us like criminals." General Martinez nodded. "If we stay, they'll only add more restrictions. Eventually, they might decide humans are too dangerous to exist at all." "The Exodus would mean leaving Earth," said someone. "Our home." "Perhaps not forever," Dr. Nguyen replied. "But for now, it may be our only choice." President Boyd stood up. His face showed the weight of the decision he was about to make. "I never thought it would come to this, but I will not watch as humanity is slowly crushed under alien control. Call a vote. Should we begin preparations for the Exodus Plan?" One by one, the leaders raised their hands. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would leave the galaxy. 6 months passed. Humans worked in secret, deep in the asteroid belt, and on Mars, giant ships were being built. These were not normal ships. They were generation ships, massive vessels designed to carry thousands of people across vast distances of space for many years. Diane Russell wiped sweat from her forehead as she looked at the huge frame of the ship called Horizon. As chief engineer, she had to make sure everything was perfect. The ship would carry people far beyond known space, with no chance to turn back for repairs. "We have another inspection request from the Council," said Greg Powell, her assistant. He held up a message pad showing alien text. Diane sighed. "Same as last time. We'll show them the regular cargo ships we're building on the surface. The deep yards stay hidden." "How much longer can we keep this secret?" Greg asked, looking worried. "We don't need long, just enough time to finish the first group of ships." While the big ships were being built, people on Earth were quietly preparing too. The government called it colonial rotation, a normal movement of people to and from space colonies. But this was different. Key scientists, artists, doctors, and carefully selected families were being moved to outer bases. From there, they would board the Exodus ships when ready. In her office in San Francisco, Lisa Warren looked out at the bay. The city seemed normal. People walked to work, children played in parks, and boats moved across the water. No one knew that in secret facilities around the world, all of human knowledge was being collected and stored for the journey. Her husband Keith entered the room. As chief archivist, his job was to save humanity's culture and history. The cultural database is at 87%, he said. Books, music, art, history, all being saved to special storage devices. Lisa nodded. And the biological samples. We have DNA from almost all Earth's plants and animals, still collecting some from the deep oceans. Lisa turned to face the window again. Will it be enough to start over somewhere new? Keith had no answer. Meanwhile, in space, human ships were pulling back from border areas. Council observers watched as military bases were closed and patrol ships returned to Earth. It looked like humans were accepting their punishment and restrictions. The Council is pleased with human compliance, reported Simon Grant, Earth's last ambassador to the aliens. His face on the video screen looked tired. President Boyd nodded. Good. Let them see exactly what they expect to see. What the aliens didn't know was that the ships they saw were empty shells. The real evacuation was happening through shadow gates, secret jump points using new technology humans had never shared with the Council. On the largest Exodus ship, Commander Heather Collins walked through wide corridors. The Earth seed was 10 kilometers long, the biggest ship humans had ever built. It would carry 50,000 people in sleep chambers and 10,000 awake crew working in shifts. Final checks complete, reported Ben Rivera, her second in command. All systems working. The farms, water recycling, and sleep chambers are all tested and ready. What about the new star maps? Heather asked quietly. Our secret teams found 17 possible worlds beyond Council space, places they've never explored. Will be completely off their maps. Heather looked at the activity around her. Thousands of people loading supplies, checking systems, and preparing for a journey that would take them away from Earth forever. The Council still believes we're just moving back to Sol System, Ben added. The fake decommissioning ceremony for our fleet is next month. All alien ambassadors will attend. Heather smiled. Perfect. When all eyes are on that show, the first ships will slip away. The moon glowed bright against the blackness of space. Around it, Earth's largest warships floated in perfect formation. Lights on their hulls blinked as thousands of cameras recorded the event. President Boyd stood on a platform before the alien ambassadors. His speech was being broadcast across all Council space. Today marks a new chapter in human history, he said, his voice strong and clear. We recognize the concerns of our galactic neighbors. Earth will focus inward rather than outward. Our military fleet will be powered down as a sign of our commitment to peace. One by one, the massive warships' lights dimmed. Their weapon systems went offline as alien observers watched with satisfaction. None of them noticed what was happening on the far side of Neptune. Hidden in the giant planet's shadow, 7 huge ships activated their shadow gates. These were not warships, but something much more important. The first Exodus vessels carrying nearly 1 million humans. Dr. Karen Hughes watched from the observation deck of the Earthseed as strange energies surrounded the ship. Through the large window, she saw the familiar stars of home fade away. For a moment, there was only darkness. Then new stars appeared, stars no human had ever seen before. Transit complete, announced Captain Frank Morgan over the speakers. All systems working normally. We have arrived at Gathering Point Alpha. Karen felt her heart beat faster. They had done it. They had escaped without being detected. But as the excitement faded, sadness took its place. Earth, beautiful blue Earth, was now dozens of light years behind them. She would never see it again. Over the next few months, more ships made the journey. Council inspectors found nothing unusual in the solar system. Mining operations continued. Trade ships moved between planets. Human diplomats attended meetings. Everything looked normal. "The humans are following all restrictions," reported a blue-skinned Centaurian observer. "Their military presence beyond Sol has decreased by 72%. The Arcturian counselor, with his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, looked doubtful. "Continue watching them. Their behavior changed too quickly to be trusted." By this time, almost 40% of the planned evacuation was complete. The greatest move in human history continued right under the noses of those who had caused it. Back on Earth, Simon Grant met with alien diplomats daily. His job was to keep them distracted while the exodus continued. "We're interested in increasing cultural exchange programs," he told them, serving drinks in his office. "Perhaps art exhibits from Earth could tour council worlds." While the diplomats discussed cultural programs, thousands of people were quietly boarding ships each day. They took only what they could carry: a few personal items, family pictures, treasured books. Everything else had to be left behind. In a secure room beneath Washington, Admiral Harlow reviewed the latest figures. "We're ahead of schedule," he told President Boyd. "If we can maintain this pace, we'll have all essential personnel and resources off-planet within 3 months." Boyd nodded. "Good. And the Shadow Gate technology?" "All research has been removed from Earth facilities. We've left altered data that will send Council scientists in circles for decades if they try to follow our path." "And they still suspect nothing." Admiral Harlow allowed himself a small smile. "They believe we're sulking after being punished. Their pride makes them blind to what's happening right in front of them." "Keep it that way," Boyd said. "The greatest trick we'll ever pull is disappearing without anyone noticing until we're gone." The Shadow Gate closed behind the Earth seed with a flash of blue light. Dr. Karen Hughes pressed her hand against the cold glass of the observation deck window. The stars here looked strange. No familiar patterns, no North Star, no Big Dipper, just random points of light in the darkness. "How many ships came through today?" she asked Captain Frank Morgan, who stood beside her. 7 total, he replied. "Nearly 1 million people in one day. The largest migration in human history, and not a single alien knows it's happening." Karen watched as another ship appeared in a burst of light. The horizon, right on schedule. In the distance, she could see the other vessels that had arrived earlier. They floated in formation, waiting for the command to begin the next phase of the journey. "All those people," she whispered, "leaving everything behind." Frank nodded, "but taking the most important things with them: our knowledge, our culture, our freedom to choose our own path." Back in Earth's solar system, the deception continued. Mining ships moved between planets, carrying ore that would never be used by humans again. Trade vessels made their regular runs. Military patrols followed their restricted routes under Council observation. President Boyd met with his remaining cabinet. Nearly half the seats were empty now. Those officials had already departed on earlier ships. "The Council seems satisfied with our compliance," reported Defense Minister Angela Foster. "Their surveillance has decreased by 30% in the last month." "Good," Boyd said. "The less they watch, the more people we can move through the Shadow Gates." "What about essential services?" asked the remaining economic minister. "We're losing key personnel every day. How long can we maintain the appearance of normal function?" "We don't need long," Boyd replied. "Just a few more months." Across Earth, carefully planned systems kept things running. Automated factories continued production. Programmed responses maintained communication with alien representatives. In many cases, aliens were speaking to computers that simulated human responses, never realizing they weren't talking to real people. On Mars Colony, Governor Ray Wilson supervised the loading of the colony's seed bank. Every plant that had been adapted to grow in Martian soil was preserved, its seeds carefully stored in special containers. "This is the last shipment," his assistant said. "After this, we'll have to start shutting down the domes." Ray nodded. "Make it look like a natural failure." The Council needs to believe we're struggling with resources, not deliberately abandoning the colony. Meanwhile, at Gathering Point Alpha, the first wave of Exodus ships prepared to leave for their final destinations. The 17 habitable worlds beyond Council space had been given simple names: New Earth, Hope, Sanctuary, and others. Each world would receive several ships, spreading humanity across many star systems. Karen Hughes had been assigned to the medical team for New Earth. As she packed her equipment, Frank Morgan visited her quarters. "We leave in 6 hours," he said. "The Earth Seed and 3 other ships. We'll be the first humans to set foot on a world beyond Council space." Karen looked at the small photo of Earth she had kept, a blue marble floating in darkness. "Do you think we'll ever go back?" Frank was quiet for a moment. "Not us. But maybe our children's children, when we're strong enough that the Council can't threaten us anymore." As the Earth Seed prepared to depart, a message arrived from Earth. Karen joined the other ship leaders in the command center to hear it. President Boyd's face appeared on the screen. Though the message had traveled for days through the Shadow Gate network, his expression showed the weight of his responsibility. "The first wave has succeeded," he said. "Continue to your designated worlds. Build. Grow. Remember, Earth will hold as long as possible to cover your escape. Good luck to you all." Junior Science Officer Rexel Carr flicked his antenna in confusion. The young Prussian had been assigned a simple task: survey Jupiter's moons for mining potential. But his sensors were picking up strange energy readings from an abandoned human facility on Callisto. "Control, I'm detecting unusual patterns near Site 12, he reported to his ship. "It appears to be some kind of energy signature I'm not familiar with." "Record all data and continue your survey," came the reply. "We'll analyze it when you return." Rexel didn't know it, but his curiosity had just uncovered the first evidence of humanity's greatest secret. 3 days later, the Council Security Committee reviewed his findings. The energy patterns matched no known human technology that had been shared with the Council. "These readings suggest a form of space-time manipulation," said the lead scientist, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly. "The humans have developed technology they did not disclose to the Council." Within hours, a special investigation team was dispatched to the Sol system. Their demands were clear: full access to all human installations, no exceptions. Admiral Jack Harlow received the news in the command bunker beneath Old Denver. Most of Earth's leadership was already gone. Those who remained were the last line of defense, the ones who would maintain the deception until the final ships departed. "They found traces of the Shadow Gate technology," he told President Boyd. "It was only a matter of time." "How much longer do we need?" Boyd asked, his face lined with fatigue. 2 more months to complete the evacuation of essential personnel and resources," Harlow replied. "We've moved almost 60% already, but the remaining ships are still being loaded." Boyd stood up, his decision made. "Then we give them 2 months. Activate Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega was the final part of the plan, a massive deception campaign designed to buy time. Suddenly, human authorities became incredibly cooperative with Council inspectors. They opened facilities that had previously been restricted, provided mountains of data, and answered every question with apparent honesty. What the aliens didn't know was that all of it was carefully managed. The facilities they inspected had been scrubbed of any real secret technology. The data they received was either useless or deliberately misleading, and the humans they spoke with were specially trained to reveal nothing important. Dr. Patricia Young worked in one of the main research facilities on Earth. Her job was to modify scientific records before Council inspectors arrived. "Change these quantum formulas," she told her team. "Make them look correct at first glance, but ensure they'll lead nowhere if someone tries to use them." Her colleague Daniel Weber looked troubled. "Is this right? We're deliberately misleading them." Patricia stopped working and looked at him. "They pushed us to this, Daniel. We tried to be friends, to share knowledge, to live peacefully. They responded with fear and control." "Still doesn't feel right," he said softly. "No, It doesn't, she agreed. But neither does waiting for them to decide humans are too dangerous to exist at all. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Military records were altered. Colonial communications were edited. Industrial production was redirected to create the impression of a civilization focusing inward rather than preparing for a massive exodus. For 6 tense weeks, the deception held. Council inspectors found nothing conclusive enough to justify more severe actions. The shadow gates continued to operate, hidden in the dark spaces between planets, moving thousands of humans beyond the reach of Council power each day. But time was running out. The inspectors were growing more suspicious, demanding access to more sensitive areas. And deep in Council space, a fleet was being assembled, just in case the humans were planning something dangerous. Red warning lights flashed across monitors in the command bunker. Defense Minister Angela Foster pointed to the display showing the outer solar system. Council warships have passed Neptune's orbit, she reported. At least 30 vessels, heavily armed. They're moving to block the main travel routes between planets. Admiral Harlow studied the display, his face calm despite the danger. They still don't understand. They're guarding the normal jump points, but our shadow gates can open anywhere. How many people are left? President Boyd asked. Less than 2 million on Earth, Angela replied. Another million spread across Mars and the moon bases. The final ships are loading now. Boyd nodded. Then it's time for the last phase. Throughout Earth, automated systems began a carefully planned shutdown. Power plants went offline one by one. Communication networks failed. Transportation systems stopped. To Council observers, it looked like a massive system failure spreading across the planet. In cities around the world, the remaining humans moved quickly to evacuation points. These weren't panic-filled crowds. Everyone had been prepared. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. Within hours, streets were empty except for animals that had already been released from zoos and wildlife centers. On the last command ship in orbit, Admiral Harlow watched the final evacuation numbers climb. Shuttle after shuttle lifted from Earth's surface, carrying the last humans away from their home planet. Earth population down to emergency personnel only, reported his communications officer. Final ships report ready status. Harlow turned to the small group of volunteers who would stay behind the longest. Your sacrifice ensures humanity's survival. The Council will find an abandoned Earth with no explanation. They'll never know where we went or how to follow. In the shadow of Pluto, Captain Ryan Butler stood on the bridge of the Exodus ship Horizon Prime. His vessel was the last to depart, the final ship in humanity's greatest journey. Status report, he ordered. His first officer, Carla Peterson, checked her screens. All systems ready. We have 23,000 colonists in sleep chambers and 5,000 awake crew. All supplies loaded. Shadowgate is charging. Ryan looked at the main view screen showing Earth, a beautiful blue marble now very far away. Soon it would be nothing but a memory. We just received the final transmission from Earth, Carla said quietly. President Boyd reports all essential personnel have evacuated. Only the automated systems remain active. Ryan took a deep breath. Begin final jump sequence. A shadow gate hummed to life, its energy building around the massive ship. As the Horizon Prime prepared to leave the solar system forever, Ryan sent one last message. Broadcast in the clear so that any alien listener could hear it. No more talks. The ship vanished in a flash of blue light. On Earth, the last human outposts went silent. The volunteers who had stayed the longest used their own small shadow gates to escape, leaving behind empty cities and abandoned technology. The Council warships approached Earth cautiously, unsure what they would find. Their sensors detected no human life signs. The cities stood intact but empty. Power systems ran on automatic. Domesticated animals wandered freely. The alien commander sent probes to the surface. They found homes with meals still on tables, cars parked neatly in driveways, parks perfectly maintained, but no humans anywhere. Where did they go? asked his second-in-command. The commander had no answer. They searched the other planets and found the same, empty colonies, functioning machines, but no people. It was as if humanity had simply decided to vanish rather than live under Council restrictions. The greatest disappearing act in galactic history was complete. Far beyond Council space, the Shadow Gates closed for the final time. The technology would not be used again for many years, not until humanity was ready to return. 5 years after the disappearance, Council ships still patrolled Earth orbit. Scientists from a dozen alien species studied the empty planet, trying to solve the mystery of what had happened to humanity. "It is like they simply walked away," said Chief Investigator Vrel as he walked through an abandoned shopping mall in what had once been Chicago. Plants grew through cracks in the floor. Birds nested in store displays. No signs of disease, war, or natural disaster. His assistant, a tall insect-like being, clicked her mandibles. "The self-extinction theory is gaining support in the Council. Many believe humans chose death over Council control." Vrel shook his head. "Where are the bodies? A species does not vanish without leaving remains." Back on the Council homeworld, leaders debated the human mystery. The Rigelian counselor, his crystal body gleaming under the chamber lights, addressed the gathering. "The lesson is clear. Humans were unstable, dangerous. Rather than accept proper oversight, they triggered some kind of species-wide end protocol. This proves we were right to restrict them." Only a few voices questioned this story. But with no evidence and no humans to defend themselves, the self-extinction theory became the official explanation. Earth was classified as a protected zone, a memorial to a species that had chosen to end rather than cooperate. The true story was very different. Far beyond Council space, beyond even the reach of their most advanced sensors, humanity was building new homes. Across 17 star systems, the Exodus ships had established colonies. Each developed along its own path but stayed connected through improved Shadow Gate technology that allowed for occasional small jumps between the new worlds. On the colony world of New Terra, people gathered in a large open field. 100 years had passed since the Exodus. The original colonists were gone now, but their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren had built a thriving civilization. Nearly 30 million humans lived on New Terra alone, with similar numbers on other colony worlds. Governor Samantha Miller, whose great-grandmother had helped plan the Exodus, stood on a simple platform. Behind her stood a monument just unveiled, a perfect marble statue of Earth, its blue and green colors shining in the sunlight of a different star. 100 years ago, she said to the crowd, "Our ancestors made the hardest choice imaginable. They left their homeworld rather than lose their freedom. They chose a difficult journey into the unknown rather than accept the slow death of human potential." She looked across the faces before her: farmers, teachers, engineers, scientists, artists, all of them born on this new world, yet all carrying the legacy of Earth. Today, humanity lives on 17 worlds. We are free, strong, and growing stronger. Our technology advances without Council restrictions. Our children grow up under open skies, not wondering when the next alien inspection will come. In the crowd, old Mason Chen watched with tears in his eyes. As a young boy, he had been on the Earthseed, one of the first ships to leave. He barely remembered Earth, but the stories had been passed down. One day, Samantha continued, we will be ready to return to the wider galaxy. Not as suppliants begging for acceptance, but as equals. And on that day, the Council will learn that humanity did not die in fear. We left in hope. She turned to the marble Earth behind her. Around its base, simple words were carved. Not forgotten, never abandoned. We will return. Far away, actual Earth continued its silent orbit around the sun. Animals roamed freely through empty cities now being reclaimed by nature. Council scientists still visited occasionally, but most had moved on to more interesting mysteries. They never thought to look beyond their known space. They never imagined that the stars themselves might be watching them. waiting for the right moment to reveal that humanity had not ended. It had only begun a new chapter. The Exodus had succeeded, and someday, when they were ready, humans would return to the stars they had once called home.